You ever feel like nothing good was ever gonna happen to you?
Yeah, and nothing did. So what? I'm alive, I'm surviving.
That's it. I don't want to just survive. It says in these movie writing books that every character has an arc. You understand? Like everybody starts out somewheres, then they do something, something gets done to them, changes their life. That's called their arc. Where's my arc?
I'm currently on my fourth rewatch of The Sopranos, and I can truthfully say I absolutely adore every single character in this show, no matter how big or small their presence is. Whether it's Tony Soprano or Benny Fazio, criminal mastermind. I genuinely think The Sopranos and The Wire have the greatest overall casts in television. But if there's one character that I think about more than the rest, that character would be Christopher. And I think this is because of the character's relatability. Not in the Sigma grindset, literally me, Tyler Durden way, but the fear of a regular life kind of way. From the very beginning of The Sopranos, Christopher wants what almost every person wants. He wants to get to the end of his life knowing his life mattered. He wants an arc. And that desire ends up destroying him. The key to understanding Christopher comes in Season 1's Episode 8, titled The Legend of Tennessee Moltisanti. After hearing stories about great historical figures and famous gangsters, Christopher turns to Paulie and asks one of the most important questions in the entire series. Where's my arc?
Where's my arc?
It's almost funny on the surface. You can tell Paulie doesn't even understand what Christopher's asking. But Christopher is expressing something deeply human here. He's terrified that his life means nothing. Everyone wants to believe they're moving towards something, whether it's a career, a dream, or a legacy. And Christopher wants that too. The difference is that Christopher has no idea where to find it. So throughout the series, he keeps chasing different versions of this. First, it's becoming a made man. Then it's screenwriting. Then it's proving himself to Tony. Then it's starting a family. Then it's sobriety. Christopher is constantly searching for the thing that will finally make him feel complete. And every single time, it slips through his fingers. One of the most underrated moments in Christopher's entire journey comes in Season 2. After spending time pursuing filmmaking and exploring a life outside of organised crime, Christopher ends up turning up late to AJ's confirmation. And Tony Soprano gives him an offer he wouldn't typically give anyone. He gives Christopher a choice to remain in the family or leave and never come back. So Christopher steps outside, he lights a cigarette, and he looks ahead. Then after a moment, he gets up and walks back inside. It's a small scene, but symbolically, it's enormous. Christopher is standing between two lives. One path representing his dreams, the possibility of becoming something other than what he was born into, and the other path is the family business, the life he's inherited, the life that's already been chosen for him. And ultimately, he turns around and walks back inside. It's one of the earliest moments where Christopher makes a conscious decision to abandon a different future. Not because he doesn't want this future, but because the pull of the life he's currently in is stronger. Part of why Christopher remains sympathetic for so long is that we understand how he got here. Unlike many characters in The Sopranos, Christopher never really had a choice. We know from childhood he was groomed for this life. The people he admired were gangsters. The only path he was ever shown was organised crime. And when you're taught your entire life that kind of violence and intimidation, it's not surprising that you become what your environment has created. That doesn't excuse Christopher, but it does explain him. And that's why, as viewers, we never completely give up on him. As the series progresses, Christopher begins betraying the audience trust more and more. he begins beating Adriana, and he spirals into a heroin addiction. By any objective standard, he becomes a far worse person. He becomes repugnant. But something strange happens. As an audience member, we don't stop rooting for Christopher. Not because he deserves some sort of forgiveness, but because we understand the tragedy unfolding in front of us. Every bad decision feels connected to a deeper wound. Christopher isn't simply an evil person. He's lost. He's searching for something that was never available to him, and every failed attempt to find meaning pushes him further into self-destruction. Season 2 also gives us another crucial moment. After Christopher is shot, he wakes up in a hospital, convinced that he has visited hell. In typical Soprano fashion, the show never truly explains whether the experience was supernatural or psychological, but what matters is what Christopher believes. For perhaps the first time in Christopher's life, he's forced to confront the possibility that his actions have consequences. This moment shakes him, yet even that revelation isn't enough to change his trajectory, because Christopher's environment always wins. Every attempt at transformation eventually collides with the world he's trapped inside. And the defining moment of Christopher's life comes in Season 5, Episode 12, titled Long-Term Parking. Adriana, after 2 seasons of being forced to become an FBI informant, tells Christopher the truth. And this, once again, gives Christopher an ultimatum. They can leave. They can finally start over and disappear. And for a brief moment, Christopher seriously considers it. This is the final escape hatch, the final opportunity that he's been searching for since the very beginning of the show. A chance to write a completely different story. And then he sees a family at a gas station. A normal family, living an ordinary life, and the father looks utterly miserable. That single image, that one split second, changes Christopher's entire view. Many viewers interpret this moment as Christopher choosing greed over love, but I think that oversimplifies it. I think it's far more complicated than that. Christopher sees a future that he doesn't recognise, and he realises that he doesn't know how to be this person. The Mafia has damaged him so completely that he can no longer imagine happiness outside of it. Just like Vito later discovers, leaving this world is much harder than it seems.
Fuck me!
Even when the door is open, even when freedom is standing right in front of you, Christopher still chooses the life. And in this moment, he signs not only Adriana's death warrant, but his own. Another reason Christopher feels so authentic is the way The Sopranos handles his addiction. Most television stories treat recovery like a finish line. However, in The Sopranos' case, Christopher gets sober, then he relapses, then he gets sober again, then he relapses again. It's a messy storyline. It is frustrating, and it is repetitive, but not in a bad way. It's repetitive in the way that real addiction is, especially when you're surrounded by people who mock recovery at every interval, who encourage substance abuse and treat emotional vulnerability as a weakness.
Sobriety's hard enough work without having to get mocked for it.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Why don't you have a fucking drink, will you? Because you're driving everybody crazy with this shit. Do me a favor.
Christopher never escapes addiction because he never escapes the environment feeding it. The relapse at the carnival is perhaps one of the funniest and most heartbreaking moments in television history. He's alone, high, completely disconnected. His brief interaction with the dog feels utterly tragic, because it may be one of the few moments of unconditional connection he experiences after Adriana's death. It's a tiny scene, but it reveals just how profoundly lonely Christopher has become. By season 6, Christopher has sacrificed everything. His dreams, his relationship, his sobriety, and even his identity. All in the pursuit of loyalty and a feeling of belonging that will never come to him. Then we enter the bar scene, where Christopher is trying to mend a broken relationship with Paulie, showing genuine emotional vulnerability. Instead, the people he spent his entire life trying to impress laugh at him, and everyone joins in.
You realize by the time Caitlin's out of college, it'll be like the year 2027 or something?
She takes after you. She won't be out of fourth grade by then. Of course, by that time, she'll be working here, so who gives a shit?
And for a split moment, we see something break in Christopher. For years, Christopher convinced himself that if he just stayed loyal enough, worked just a bit harder, he would finally earn acceptance. Instead, he realizes the truth. These people have never loved him. They have never respected him, and they don't even understand him. The family that he's devoted his life to would never make the same sacrifices that he's made. That realization is Christopher's true arc. What's fascinating about Christopher by season 6 is that by this point he already knows the truth. The bar scene has exposed the reality of his relationship with the mob. After years of loyalty and sacrifice, he's finally forced to confront the fact that these people will never truly respect him. But Christopher still has one thing left: JT Dolan. JT is easily overlooked because he's not one of the major Sopranos characters, but symbolically he represents something incredibly important for Christopher. It's Christopher's final connection to the outside world. A person who exists in the legitimate world Christopher once dreamed of joining. JT is living proof that another life could exist. Not a perfect life, but a real one. Every major crossroads in Christopher's story involves him standing between two identities: the gangster he was raised to be and the artist he secretly wanted to become. JT represents that second path, which makes their final scene together devastating. Christopher arrives at JT's apartment emotionally broken, isolated from the mob, all by himself. For perhaps the first time in the series, Christopher is genuinely trying to tell someone how he feels. Not his father figure Tony, or his fiancée Adriana, but someone outside of the life altogether. Someone who might actually understand. But JT rejects it. When Christopher begins talking about his criminal life, JT shuts down. And from JT's perspective, it makes perfect sense. He already knows too much. He's terrified of this man. Why would he want any part of Christopher's life? Then he says the worst possible thing.
I'm pouring my heart out, man.
And I'm very sorry.
But we met in AA.
Chris, you're in the Mafia.
The line sounds simple, but for Christopher it's devastating. Because JT has stripped away every excuse and every lie Christopher has been telling himself. He's not a screenwriter. He's not a filmmaker. He's not a recovering addict. He's not a husband. And he's not a father. He's a mobster. That's all the world sees. That's all he'll ever be. And Christopher can't accept it. So Christopher decides to shoot JT. What's tragic is that Christopher isn't just killing JT. He's killing the last surviving piece of the life he's always wanted. the aspiring writer who once attended screenwriting classes, the man who believed he was destined for something bigger than organised crime. All of that dies with JT. After this moment, Christopher stops trying to build bridges. He retreats completely. He isolates himself with Kelly and his daughter. On paper, it may look like maturity. Christopher's finally deciding to settle down. But I think it's surrender. By this point, he's accepted that he can never leave. Christopher is never going to become the person that he wanted, or the person we wanted. He's never going to find the arc he's been searching for since the start of Season 1. The dream is over. All that's left is survival. Which makes his death in the next episode feel strangely inevitable, because spiritually, Christopher Moltisanti died the moment he killed JT Dolan. Christopher Moltisanti is one of television's greatest characters, because he constantly forces us into uncomfortable territory. The show makes us sympathise with Christopher, and then he disgusts us. And once we root for him, he disappoints us. When we want him to change, he finally proves that he can't. By the end of the series, when Tony kills him, we're left with a complicated feeling that's difficult to describe. Christopher is both victim and victimizer. A man shaped by abuse who becomes an abuser. A dreamer trapped inside a violent sociopath. A person who wanted meaning, but spent his life searching for it in all the wrong places. And that's why Christopher's story resonates so deeply with so many people. Because underneath the addiction, the mob politics, Christopher is asking the same questions many of us ask ourselves. Where's my arc? And the tragedy is that he spent his entire life looking for one without realising he already had it.